Number 1. The Boy. I don't know if this qualifies as a country story, although we did live out in the country when it took place. It was a strange area because it was on the side of a hill, but there it was out of a town, and there were plenty of houses on the side of the hill. You turned onto a dirt road to get there. There was a really old country store at the top of the hill. The dirt road went down the hill and then continued up another hill. I never knew where the road led because I never even drove down the hill before. Our house was on the top of the hill. I'm not going to lie about this. It was an area that really poor people lived in. My family was pretty poor, and I was born and raised there. I mean to give you an idea of how poor we were. During Christmas, my sister and I were given $5 and taken to the dollar store to buy 5 gifts for each other, while our parents didn't do any shopping for us. Our relatives would be the ones who gave us Christmas presents that we actually liked. Sorry for all the background. This story is about a friend of my younger sister's that began coming around when she was maybe 7 years old. It was a boy named Clay, who was also 7 years old. I was a boy who often played with girls, so the sex thing wasn't a big deal. But the big deal was that Clay really creeped me out, and all of the time. He had the scariest and blankest eyes I'd ever seen on a child. I was 13 years old at the time. Only my sister and I were home. I was in the kitchen, drinking a can of store-brand soda, when Clay came walking into the kitchen. I knew he had been in my sister's room playing. The kid, who had talked to me before, so I knew he was not nervous to talk to me, simply stared at me. I looked at him, and he stood there, just staring at me with those blank eyes, in the doorway, looking right at me. I don't know how much time had passed, but it seemed like a lot, before I finally asked him what he wanted. Well, not to my surprise, he didn't respond to me. He didn't even blink. The kid just kept staring at me. Finally, my sister came into the kitchen. She went to the fridge, grabbed a can of soda, and handed it to Clay. She then turned to me and asked why I didn't get him a can. The kid immediately responded to her. I asked him a couple of times, and he didn't get me one. My sister gave me a huffy look, grabbed his hand, and took the little liar back into her bedroom. They played there a while until my parents got home for dinner. I had been making dinner, which was normal around the house, and they asked him if he wanted to eat over. My parents were talking to my sister about something, so Clay came into the kitchen to watch me making dinner. Again, he was just staring at me blankly and not talking. However, when the whole family came in to eat dinner, he began talking with everyone. It was like he had a small psychotic side that he only wanted me to see. This sort of thing continued for a while. It always bothered me, but I never told my parents about it because I had the impression they wouldn't believe me. Why would the kid act that way toward me, but not toward anyone else? It did seem unbelievable. After a period of time, though, something happened that my parents would not have been able to ignore. This time I was in my bedroom, in bed, reading a book. I heard a commotion coming from my sister's bedroom. At first I ignored it. I couldn't imagine it being anything to worry about. My sister could be tomboyish sometimes, so I just figured they were playing rough. But soon I heard my sister crying, and that was when I finally knew that something was wrong. My sister didn't play with dolls really, but people would buy her dolls anyway. She actually liked action figures, and was a fan of things like Chiamerah or Care Bears. I got up, ran into her bedroom, and was shocked to see the dolls all lying on the floor. None of the other toys were touched. The dolls, however, were in pieces, and there was Clay, with a small hatchet in his hand, chopping on one of the dolls. I ran toward the kid before he even noticed me. I grabbed the hatchet out of his hand and pushed him away. He landed on his butt, but immediately got up and ran at me. The little punk bit me on the leg. I was fortunate that I was wearing jeans, not shorts, but it still hurt. This time I kicked him off, and then grabbed him by the neck and one arm. It was the only way I could keep him from biting me, but without hurting his neck. I took him and threw him out the front door of my house, and then closed and locked the door. Oh, the kid was angrier than a kid in Walmart whose mom told him he couldn't have a candy bar. He came pounding on the door. He was screaming to be let back in and to give his hatchet back. I would have called the police, but we didn't have a telephone at the time. Fortunately, I would find out later that a neighbor with a phone heard the kid screaming and called one, thinking someone was being abused. Before the police came, my sister told me that I should give Clay his hatchet back. Her reason why chilled me to the bone. It's the one he uses whenever he catches a mouse or a snake. I know the police took the kid back to his mom. I hope that he got some sort of therapy, but of course a 7-year-old can't be charged with a crime. My sister told me she saw him in school, but he never spoke to her anymore. He just looked at her with those blank eyes, like he used to do to me. Number 2. Bird watching. I really think that what happened in the story was someone who was just trying to scare me. There are bullies out there in the world, many of them I know. The sort of things I could tell you that happened to me still invoke strong emotions in me, even this late in life. When I think of being the small kid who got beaten up in school on a weekly basis for no other reason than I was small, it pisses me off and makes me want to look up those bullies now and teach them a lesson. I am sure what happened in this story was just one of those bullies trying to scare me. But with some of the shit bullies do, you never know. I hated being in school. Obviously, when you are scared to death that you're gonna get beat up, you'd hate going to school too. Not only that, it was a huge school that serviced one entire and very rural county. I didn't even get a break on the bus ride home. Plus the parents of the bullies wouldn't do shit either, because they felt that weaker kids needed to be bullied to be toughened up. And yes, when my parents confronted the parents of my bullies, this was usually the response by the slack-jawed yokels that lived there. The only peace I ever got was when I was at home, because we lived in the country in a house in the hollow. There were other houses in the area, but they were probably all at least a mile apart. I didn't have any friends that lived around me, but I enjoyed the peace that I got from that. My favorite thing to do was watching birds, and I could spend all day watching and naming birds. There were times that I did this, and I would have to walk home in the dark. I am not necessarily scared of the dark, but even if you aren't, walking home in the dark woods by yourself can be scary to anyone. So I tried to be careful not to do this. One day, I wasn't having a lot of luck finding birds though, but I figured that was because I kept hearing footfalls around me. I even thought I caught sight of a person once, or at least, I thought I saw someone running off. I had never encountered anyone when I was out, so this was pretty strange. I was determined to find 2 birds in the area that I'd never caught sight of. One was a red-headed woodpecker, which, while not rare everywhere, was only seen spotted very rarely where I lived. And on this day, I kept hearing a woodpecker and was very determined to catch a glimpse of it. And before I knew it, it was beginning to get dark outside. I had completely lost track of time and had a long walk before getting home, and it would be dark very quickly. Once it was dark, I was paranoid, of course, but I wasn't really scared until I began hearing sounds, like someone was out there again. This time, it seemed like someone was following me, because the sounds were behind me, but kept up with me. I began thinking about the noises from earlier and got worried. I tried to hurry up, but I had to be careful walking in the dark through the woods. Everything that I was used to at that point was making the walk even worse. The normal night sounds, mixed with the footfalls, were scary. Being dark with only a small flashlight, basically a pen flashlight, was scary. Still, nothing was scarier than when I heard this noise. I couldn't tell what it was at first, but it sounded like someone was trying to start a lawnmower, but it wouldn't start on the first few tries. I began wondering what the noise could be. Who would have a lawnmower in the middle of the woods? Then it started, and I knew what the sound was. It was a chainsaw. Now, I know why someone would have a chainsaw in the middle of the woods, but not after dark. I didn't run at first. It was just too weird hearing a chainsaw at dark. So I turned around and began shining that little flashlight around everywhere. It took a few moments before I noticed any movement, but then I flashed it back towards the movement, and I could make out that there was a person there. And although the features were hard to make out, there was no doubt that the person was holding a chainsaw. They were just standing there, but began running at me. It was surreal. I turned and began running. I made no stupid horror movie mistakes. I didn't yell anything back. I didn't try to find a hiding place. I didn't look back even once. I just kept running, and eventually the chainsaw noise began fading and fading until it was finally gone. That didn't matter to me. I had no idea if the guy had turned the chainsaw off, but was still after me, so I ran until my stomach and chest hurt so bad that I couldn't run anymore. I made it home, without anything else happening. I told my parents, but there wasn't really anything they could do about it. They owned the land, but the police would never be able to find someone by the time they got there. The thing is, though, that two brothers that bullied me did live in the area. It was a house on top of a hill, right at the edge of my parents' land. They could have been messing around in the woods early in the day. They could have been those footfalls I heard, and they could have gotten a chainsaw from their dad's tool shed and followed me until it got dark. That is what I think happened. They must have stopped following me and had only intended on scaring me and not hurting me. But that didn't make it any less scary. I mean, if you ever see a guy with a chainsaw chasing you at night, will you ever stop and ask them, "Hey, are you trying to scare me or are you trying to hurt me?" I doubt it. Number 3. The Entrance. When we were kids and visiting my aunt and uncle, we were always allowed to go out and play in the woods. The only things that we were not supposed to do were to go too deeply into the woods, and that we had to be very careful. My aunt always told us that if we went out too far, even though how far too far was never specified, we might end up falling into a hole or something of the sort. I didn't know what holes would be doing out in the woods, unless they were caves, I guess, but those were the rules that were given. Admittedly, we weren't very good at following those rules. When the kids are getting to playing, the last thing they think of is being careful. This was a summer day, and we had these cheap knockoff laser tag toys. There were 3 of us, me, my brother, and my cousin. I'm not going to name any names because I don't think it is necessary. But we were playing and getting really into it, not paying attention to how far away from the house we were getting. Well, the mode we had on the game was much like tag. One of us was it, and the other 2 would go hiding. If we were found, he who was it would have to shoot the target on our chest in order for it to count as a tag. So we tried to find our best hiding places. On one day, where I was hiding and not it. I was trying to find a good spot. I noticed what looked like a small structure, mostly covered in some leaves. My curiosity took over, and I went over to check it out. After brushing off a lot of the old leaves, and the new leaves too, I was surprised to find what looked like a cellar door. It looked just like a cellar door that you would see outside of an old farmhouse. There was like a small concrete structure raised slightly off the ground on the far end, with 2 wooden doors. The wooden doors had handles on them, and they were chained shut and locked with an old but thick rusty lock. It was the oddest thing to see out in the woods like this. There was no sign that there had ever been a house there, so seeing an old cellar entrance in such a place was very, very strange. I tried seeing if the chains or the lock were so old that they would be able to be broken, but I wasn't able to come even close. They were old and rusted, but pretty solid. I then tried pulling on the handle of one of the doors. It opened just a little bit, like maybe a few inches, as much as the chain would allow it. I then let go and let it fall back down with a pretty loud thud. I began wondering if someone once had a cabin or a shack out there and it had a fruit cellar. That would have made the most sense, since the shack or the cabin could have burned down and left little trace that they were there. I was about to run back and tell my brother and my cousin when I heard a noise. It sounded like one of the cellar doors was opening back up. I immediately got scared, wondering how in the world I could be hearing such a thing. But still, like any curious kid, I turned around to look back at the door. I saw it opening up slowly, and then I saw a hand, undoubtedly a human hand, come out of the door and hold it open. I should have run, but again I was curious. I kept looking at the door, but didn't see anything else but the hand. Then I heard a voice. The only way I can describe the voice is that it sounded like a whisper, but it was loud enough for me to hear it clearly. "Come closer," it coaxed. "Come closer and take a look inside." Well, I may have been curious, but I wasn't having any of that. I finally got terrified enough that I ran off to find my cousin and my brother. When I told them what I had seen, neither of them believed me. However, they still wanted to go and see for themselves. Finding the cellar entrance again was easy. My brother even tried pulling up the door like I had and let it fall back down. I kept waiting for the hand to open the door again and to hear the voice, but it never came. And even after multiple attempts to get his attention, nothing happened at all. Eventually, we went back to my aunt and uncle's place. We all told them what we had found, as well as the experience that I had. While they believed us, they refused to come back and find it with us, and they refused to let us go back and look for it. They told us it was someone else's property, whatever it was, and none of our business. It wouldn't have done any good anyway. Even though we weren't allowed to, we went back searching for it several times. We never found it. I will always wonder what was going on there. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, as usual, I want to thank all my paid Patreon subscribers, starting with my 2 VIPs, Chiamerah Cat and Pixie Hopper 8. I also want to thank Heidi H, Chronic J, Stinky News, EricaOdd, Tracy Sellars, Kelli Clark, and Broken Angel. Again, I'm sorry for the long wait between videos. I was sick for a little while, and then as soon as I started feeling better, both my mouse and my keyboard just stopped working, so I had to get new ones of those, and everything kept getting delayed, so I'm sorry it took so long. I don't like doing that, and I was working on a Patreon video too, and that got delayed as well, but they are coming up, and also I will be doing the live stream that we talked about Again, I don't know what day it is. I was usually considered doing them on Saturdays, but with my schedule being off this week, today being Thursday, coming out with a video, and I was going to work on another one, I don't know. We'll see. If I decide to do it, I will put up a notification for it the following or the previous day, so you'll know. And if you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of new videos. Leave me a comment, which I'll try to get back to as soon as possible. And consider sharing the video with someone you think might enjoy it. If you have an original story you want narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please send it to the address included in the description. And now I'd like to mention all of my free Patreon members: Anthony Bowers, Remi, Venikins, Rosa Metro, Woofer McWooferson, Cindy Cleveland, Vanapira Rayne, William H., Alien Unicorn 13, Kathryn Lynch, The Bama Guy 334, Michael Vasquez, Bonnie Lynn, Collet Bond, Krista Pike, Prince UVA, HF Creations, Bonnie Gibbs, Linda Moore, DJ Lira, Evil Black Cat, Lori Hicks, Lisa Herman, Krystal Robin, Hillbilly 13, RhettSchall, John Tull, Baby and Baby, Sherry Hubbard, and Vina Waldren. But most importantly, don't forget to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a killer orange cat might be hiding. Good night.